the grammar translation method, the direct method, the communicative language teaching, the community language learning, the Suggestipedia, etc., etc. As a language teacher, you must have heard about these names. You know that these are some of the known methods of teaching English. But the question is, are you familiar with the elements that constitute a method? In other words, what are the main components that are within each method? In this video, we'll have a look at 3 main elements that constitute a method. We mainly have 3 main elements within any teaching method. The first one is the approach, the second one is design, and the last one is procedure. Within the approach, we have 2 main sub-elements. Those are the theory of the language itself and the theory of the language learning. The sub-elements of the design are the objectives, the syllabus, the types of activities, learner roles, teacher roles, and instructional materials, while the procedure includes the use of activities, the strategies, and the feedback. The theory of the nature of the language takes an account of the nature of language proficiency and an account of the basic units of the language structure. We have a few models of language that have influenced language teaching methods and approaches. The first one is the cognitive model, where the view of language is based on the idea that language reflects properties of the mind. The structural model, where the view that the language is a system of structurally related elements for the coding of meaning. The functional model, where the view that language is a vehicle for the expression of functional meanings and for performing real-world activities. The interactional model sees language as a vehicle for the realizations of interpersonal relations and for the performance of social transactions between individuals. The sociocultural model views language as a communicative activity in which the social context is central. Knowledge is constructed through social interaction with others and reflects the learner's culture, costumes, and beliefs, as well as the collaborative activities people are engaged in. General model refers to an area of a human activity where there are norms of language usage, such as in science, business, medicine, or literature. The lexical model prioritizes the role of lexes and lexical chunks or phrases in language and highlights the interrelatedness of grammar and vocabulary. Rather than seeing lexes and grammar as discrete, they are viewed as being intrinsically related. The theory of the nature of language learning takes an account of the psycholinguistic and cognitive processes involved in language learning and the account of the conditions that allow for successful use of these processes. A variety of theories are suggested when it comes to language learning. The first one is behaviorism, which is based on the view that learning is a process in which specific behaviors are acquired in response to a specific stimuli. The cognitive code learning emphasizes that language learning was a cognitive process depending on both deductive and inductive learning as well as meaningful practice. Creative construction hypothesis suggests that learning is not simply a question of reproducing input, but a creative process that has common features regardless of the learner's language background, and that this accounts for the similarities seen in the language produced by linguistically diverse second language learners. Skill learning theory suggests that complex uses of language are made up of a hierarchy of skills. Interactional theory argues that learning is an interactive process and depends on learners working together to achieve mutual understanding. Central to this view of learning is the concept of negotiation of meaning. Constructivism theory suggests that learning is seen as something that results from the learner's internal construction of meaning. Knowledge does not exist independently of the meaning constructed from experience by the learner or community of learners. Learners are actively involved in their own process of learning. Sociocultural learning theory. This theory can be seen as an extension of both constructivism and interactional theory and views language learning as resulting from dialogue between a learner and a more knowledgeable other person. The term sociocultural means that learning takes place in a particular social setting in which there is an interaction between people, objects, and culturally organized activities and events. Individual factors. The attributes individual learners bring to the language learning can also have an important influence on learning, and teaching methods often seek to take account of these attributes. These can include learning style preferences, affective factors, motivation, learning strategies, and so on. Let's have a look at the level of design. Starting with the objectives, some methods set out to teach general communication skills and give greater priority to the ability to express oneself meaningfully and to make oneself understood, rather than to grammatical accuracy or perfect pronunciation. Others may place a greater emphasis on accurate grammar and pronunciation from the very beginning. The degree to which a method has process-oriented or product-oriented objectives may be revealed in how much emphasis is placed on vocabulary acquisition and grammatical proficiency, and in how grammatical or pronunciation errors are treated in the method. The second sub-element, the syllabus. All methods of language teaching involve the use of the target language. All methods, thus, involve overt or covert decisions concerning the selection of language items or features that are to be used within a course or a method. Decisions about the choice of language content relate to both subject matter and linguistic matter. In straightforward terms, one makes decision about what to talk about and how to talk about it. When it comes to the types of learning and teaching activities that focus on grammatical accuracy may be quite different from those that focus on communicative skills. Activities designed to activate specific second language acquisition process, such as noticing, will differ from those directed toward mastery of particular features of grammar. The activity type that a method advocates often serve to distinguish methods and approaches most clearly. Different philosophies at the level of approach may be reflected both in the use of different kinds of activities and in different uses for particular activity types. The fourth sub-element at the level of design is learner roles. The design of an instructional system will be considerably influenced by how learners are regarded. A method reflects explicit or implicit responses to questions concerning the learner's contribution to the learning process. This is seen in the types of activities learners carry out, the degree of control learners have over the content of learning, the patterns of learner groupings adopted, the degree to which learners influence the learning of others, and the view of the learner as processor, performer, initiator, problem solver, or other. The fifth sub-element is the teacher roles. Learner roles in an instructional system are closely linked to the teacher's role and function. Teacher roles are similarly related ultimately to assumptions about both language and language learning at the level of approach. Some methods are totally dependent on the teacher as a source of knowledge and direction. Others see the teacher's role as a consultant, guide, and model for learning. Teacher roles and methods are related to the types of functions teachers are expected to fulfill, whether that of practice director, counselor, or model, for example, the degree of control the teacher has over how learning takes place, the degree to which the teacher is responsible for determining the content of what is taught, and the interactional patterns that develop between teachers and learners. The last sub-element is the role of instructional materials. What is specified with respect to objectives, content, learning activities, and learner and teacher roles suggests the function for materials within the system. The syllabus defines linguistic content in terms of language elements, such as the structures, the topics, the notions, the functions, or the tasks. It also defines the goal for language learning in terms of listening, speaking, reading, or writing skills. The instructional materials, in their turn, further specify subject matter content, even where no syllabus exists, and define or suggest the intensity of coverage for syllabus items, allocating the amount of time, attention, and detail particular syllabus items or tasks require. Instructional materials also define or imply the day-to-day learning objectives that collectively constitute the goals of the syllabus. Materials designed on the assumption that learning is initiated and monitored by the teacher must meet quite different requirements from those designed for student self-instruction or for peer tutoring. The last level of conceptualization and organization within a method is what we refer to as procedure. This encompasses the actual moment-to-moment techniques, practices, and behaviors that operate in teaching a language according to a particular approach or method. It is the level at which we describe how a method realizes its approach and design in a classroom behavior. There are 3 dimensions to a method at the level of procedure. The use of teaching activities such as drills, dialogues, or information gaps to present new language and to clarify and demonstrate formal, communicative, or other aspects of the target language, the ways in which particular teaching activities are used for practicing the language, and the procedures and techniques used in giving feedback to learners concerning the form or the content of their adherences. This was a quick overview of the main elements and sub-elements that constitute a method. If you're still watching and managed to get to this point, you're a genius. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.